Safety and Judiciary for the 2025 regular session. This morning, we're going to hear from representatives of the Kentucky Court of Justice who are here to provide a budget overview, as well as representatives from the Kentucky State Police who will provide an update on Trooper Academy classes and the Kentucky Early Warning System leases. I'm going to call this meeting to order and have them call roll.
Representative Bray. Representative Decker.
Present.
Representative Kulkarni. Representative Sharp.
Present.
Representative Bowling. Representative Elliott. Representative Petrie. Chair Dietz.
Present. We have minutes to approve from February 18th. If I can have a motion.
Motion.
Thank you. A second? Okay, a motion and a second. The minutes are approved. And the Kentucky State Police, I understand, have asked if they could come first. They need to be somewhere else, so if they could make their way to the table and bring their guests. Good afternoon. And once you're seated, if you could make sure that your green button is on and introduce yourself and your guest.
Sorry. I'm Colonel Philip Burnett, Jr., the Commissioner of Kentucky State Police, and then I'm here with Brandon Marshall, Staff Assistant, who is spearheading our radio replacement project. Sure, I'll be glad to. First, I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to be able to come here and speak and discuss our successes dealing with recruitment. The General Assembly and administration has been so supportive of Kentucky State Police and law enforcement across Kentucky in general, and I know that we're very lucky to have that, and I'd like to thank you. In 2024, General Assembly passed House Bill 6, directing Kentucky State Police to prepare a report for detailing recruitment, retention, and demographic statistics for trooper cadet classes in the fiscal year 2023 through 24, 24-25, 25-26. The report also was to include age, gender, race, educational level, and geography where these applicants were coming from. This quarterly report has been submitted. We have submitted two of those, one in November the 19th and one in February the 12th. But I will start with fiscal year 23-24, and what that was Cadet Class 104. With that class, we had 547 applications that we considered complete. Now, we typically, when we have a recruiting cycle or application cycle, we will have more applications. But there are many types of documents and things they have to provide us to have a complete application. But with this one, we had 547 that were considered complete. The average age of those applications were 27 years of age, with the majority of those 22 years of age. That class started January the 7th, 2024, and it started with 72 cadets. The average age for those that had started the class was 25 years of age, with the majority 21 years of age. That class graduated June 21st, 2024, with 37 cadets out of that. Now, the report, the quarterly recruitment and retention report that was submitted, we have a variety of categories, and I didn't want to go through every single category because it will be time consuming, but I can answer those if any of the board members wish or committee members wish. But some of the highlights, how we broke those down, with education and work experience, we have that were eligible to be able to apply. It would be a high school or GED with 3 years of work experience, 60 hours of college credit, 2 years of military service, or 2 years of law enforcement experience. Those were the qualifications and the standards that we were using for someone to be able to apply. So with those, the majority of that class, of those applicants, 52% were eligible with the high school or GED or 3 years work experience. 25% were 60 hours of college credit, 10% were military 2 years, and then 3.6% for law enforcement experience. Also, we track that through the actual recruitment process, and then also the actual the academy, who was accepted into the academy, and then it went on to who graduated the academy. So out of that class, Cadet Class 104, upon graduation, 35% graduated that had a high school or GED with 3 years work experience. 51% of those graduated with the 60 hours of college credit, and 5.4% with 2 years of law enforcement experience, and 5% of military experience. So those were the ones that actually, from start of the process through the academy, through graduation, that was how that we tracked those. So we go into Cadet Class 105 for the next fiscal year. With that one, we had 814 applications that were considered complete. The average age was 26 years of age, and the majority of those submitted were 22 years of age. That class started November the 10th of 2024 with 89 conditional letters of employment, which means we sent out 89 offers for them to be able to show up to the academy the first day. Only 83 actually arrived at the academy that day. 6 did not show up the first day. That class is slated to graduate May the 2nd of this year, 2025. But out of that 83 that began the academy process, currently today, there are 33 of those left. So, with that one, kind of the same with some statistics. The majority applied under the high school or GED with 3 years of work experience was 55%. 60 hours of college credit was 23%. 2 years of military, 12%. And 2 years of law enforcement experience, 2.5%. Now, I want to step back just a little bit and explain to the committee, talking about how we have an applicant that applies with a GED or a high school degree with 3 years of work experience. With that, they have to have an associate's degree if they don't have the 2 years military, or they don't have the 2 years law enforcement experience, or the 60 hours of college. So what we do when they come into the academy, that we contract with Bluegrass Technical Community College to be able, for those, they take classes of a night, and then they do obtain an associate's degree before they retire, or before they graduate. So that's one thing. So we're with the KAR with that, and that's for them to be able to get an associate's degree as another recruiting tool, which is a very good thing for us. With that one, I'll go on to the graduation rate on that one, and the actual attendance, because graduation hasn't occurred yet. But with that class, 42% were accepted that had a high school or GED with 3 years of experience, and 36% were 60 hours of college credit, 2 years military experience, 6.5%, and 2 years of law enforcement experience, 5.49%. So that's that talks about those classes. Again, I hope that all 33 that's still remaining graduate in there. They're 16 weeks in, so they're well beyond halfway threshold point at that point.
If I can just interrupt you there, a question. You talk about a complete application. Can you tell me what a complete application is?
Yes, that would be if, say, they would not submit a transcript or a birth certificate. And, we're consistently, our recruitment branch, they'll say, here's the things you have to have. And one thing that we have learned early, too, is like if candidates did not submit all the requirements, we were consistently, even our recruiters, they would follow up, hey, you need to submit this form. You need to submit this form so you have a complete application. So we were able to finally get those things after sometimes 2 or 3 reminders, email or contact. Well, what we determined with those individuals that were candidates that are cadets in the class were the ones that were quitting. So, we give a basic checklist of what they have to do. Now, we may give one reminder, but after that, we don't consistently keep reaching out to them, hey, you need to submit this. You need to submit these things. So that's what would be considered a complete application or not.
And I know we didn't ask for this information today, and you may not have it, but the difference between those that are coming in that start the program and those that are graduating, is there a reason, a common thread on the number that graduates?
Well, I talk with other agencies, it's just not us. But Kentucky State Police, we're required to turn out a product. That's what the Commonwealth wants. That's what the General Assembly wants. That's what the administration wants. That's what retirees want, and that's what our current people want. With the things that our agency has experienced and we've had to work with, issues that's occurred across Kentucky, typically you'll always see a Kentucky State Trooper there in uniform, and they handle those things. Whether it may be a shooting, whether it may be a natural disaster, but we're not trying to, by no means, run anybody off. We would love for everyone to graduate. We would. But there is just some specific things that they have to be able to do to be a trooper. And for some things that's somewhat concerning is that there's a lot of them on the early end fail the physical fitness test. Well, they had to pass that physical fitness test. That's the POP standard for any law enforcement officer. So they have to pass that just to be able to be accepted into the academy. So when they come into the academy, they're expected to be able to have those physical standards. They can't pass them. So they have done nothing to prepare themselves from the time that they initially pass it to when they're coming into the academy. But other things we've done to work with that, we have our recruiters. Our recruitment section is bigger than it's been in the history of the agency. But our recruiters also serve as mentors. They work with these candidates coming in. Here's things that you need to be able to do to be prepared for the academy. We have videos. We have the physical standards. They reach out to them. They're being in contact with them. So there's a lot of things that we've done and we've expanded, for them to be successful through that. And what I can tell you is that I've also, at different conferences, that I'll have to be around other colonels and commissioners from state police agencies and other large agencies. They're incurring the same thing that we're doing with dropout rates.
And I think one more question I'll open up to the members if they have any is how many vacancies do we have right now and what do you need to fill at this point?
Well, we are right now recruiting for Cadet Class 106, and we were initially going to have that open through about the end of April, but our applications are so high and completed applications, we're going to stop that March the 15th, which is good. So that class will start in August. Cadet Class 106. Right now, we have 845 troopers. That does not include the 33 cadets. That does not also include the 66 trooper R's that we have. But if you put all those together, we're at 944. The most we've ever had in our agency is 1,006 troopers. And but just in 2020, first time I was sitting at this table, we had 761 troopers. So we have grown. You know, that's also going through retirement cycles and things that we've had. But we don't really have a cap. You know, we've never, the only time in history we ever made it over 1,000, and that was on the front end of academy class when they first come in August. So they were considered cadets. So we're hovering about where we're at. But you know, we obviously, if we can keep running 1.5 classes a year, you know, we're going to be able to keep those numbers up that we need.
Thank you. I think Representative Sharp has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Colonel Brandon, it's good to see you guys.
Yes,
I'm very happy the programs you're talking about. A couple questions I have is that you're sending these cadets to get an associate's degree. Is your training also evaluated for college credit? Your academy?
They actually, well, they get college credit for the academy, so many hours with that.
Okay. The other question I got is, what is the PT test that they're failing?
It is, it's just traditional POP standards. It would be the same if someone attends DOCJT. It would be the bench press, a certain percentage of their body weight. It's push-ups in a 2-minute period. It's sit-ups in a 2-minute period. It's a 300-meter run, and it's a 1.5 mile run.
And where are they having the most problems with?
It's just a variety of things. It's typically in the running.
Okay. Your attrition rate is over 50%, and I'm glad that you're taking the highest out of that. But what is the biggest issue for someone to drop out or fail out of the academy?
Well, you know, I read everyone's resignation letter. When someone resigns, they write why they're leaving. And most of it is just because they miss their families. They miss their home. And that is one thing dealing with a state academy, that people have to come to a centralized location for an academy. They can't attend like a local academy at Lexington or Louisville or Bowling Green, you know, where they can't stay right there at home. So that's one of the biggest obstacles that we come across, and that's not just here in Kentucky, but that's also talking with other colonels and commissioners from state agencies across the country.
Now, the academy is a resident academy. Is that also on the weekends, or are they able to go home on the weekends?
They're able to go home. That we'll release them in the earlier hours on Friday afternoon, and then they come back on Sunday night.
Okay. Thank you, Carl.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
I think Representative Kulkarni has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for your presentation. I have a couple of questions that I think were sparked by some of my colleagues' questions. It has to do, I'll ask the first one about the folks that drop out, right? I think you said the majority of the class for this class and the last class was age 22 or 21, in that range.
Yeah.
I mean, so these are young individuals. My question is, for whatever reason, if they don't make it or they leave the program, are there any that come back? Is there any rollover? For instance, if something was happening or they matured a little bit in a year's time, is there an upper age limit? And or do any folks come back?
Yes,
okay.
And we've had some that's come back through, been very successful. But yeah, unless there's some detrimental reason why they were not able to navigate the academy at that time, they can go back and apply again, and then we would go right back through the system. But that wasn't necessarily that would anything would be held against them unless there was just something that was egregious that occurred during that training.
Okay, and as a quick follow-up, what are your current channels of recruitment? So where are you getting candidates from that are applying?
The majority of our candidates are coming from central and eastern Kentucky. Madison County, Laurel County, Whitley, Pulaski, those are some of the bigger ones. We do have some bigger numbers in Jefferson and Fayette County, but for the populations that we have, they're not enormous. Now, where we're really having a hard time in staffing troopers is at the Mayfield post, Madisonville post, Henderson post, Campbellsburg post, and the Dry Ridge post. So what we've done as a recruiting initiative, if you apply through one of those posts, you are guaranteed to come back and stay at that post. And then if it's not one of those posts, you're guaranteed to either go back to the post you live or a surrounding post. So that is, that's some things that we've done to try to tailor people being away from home, where someone in Mayfield does not have to worry about going to Eastern Kentucky or vice versa. But really and truly, we're channeling that for Western Kentucky. And Western Kentucky is a challenge to recruit. And as a matter of fact, we have 2 retired troopers that we've put in recruiting. Their pure focus is to recruit in Western Kentucky and in those post areas.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Representative Decker.
Thank you for your presentation. Just curious about the number who don't make the physical fitness part. Is that increasing or decreasing? What's the rate of acceptance or rejection based on that? Is it going up, stable, down?
I don't have the exact figures on that. Our recruitment would have that, but I would feel that those have increased.
Okay, thank you.
And I think next, if you all want to go ahead and give an update on the leases.
So CUES, or the Kentucky Emergency Warning System, is a microwave backhaul network comprised of 153 communication towers across the Commonwealth. CUES supports and connects multiple public safety communications network for both state and local agencies, including seismology detection and reporting equipment for state universities, Kentucky Educational Television, the Department of Military Affairs Communication System, or DMARCS, the Kentucky State Police's legacy radio system, as well as the SERVS network, which we have an open capital project working now that will be the statewide trunked radio program for all public safety in the Commonwealth, designed and built by the Kentucky State Police for all to use. CUES is going through right now an upgrade as the SERVS network is being built out in order to support that. While those 153 tower sites, some of them are state-owned and others are on other governmental property. Some of them are on privately owned land. And understanding that the majority of these privately owned land leases that CUES towers reside upon were established and funded in the 1970s and set to expire in 26, 27, and 28, the Kentucky General Assembly generously appropriated funding in the last budget biennium for these leases. We have had some success in renewing those leases since that funding was awarded to us. A great deal of our time and energy since that last report has been spent in a combined effort by our staff and the Finance Cabinet's Division of Real Properties to access contracted services from firms with expertise in land leasing to help with renewing those leases and identify landowners for new sites as well. Several firms now hold master agreements and are eligible to be used, and we're doing just that. Currently, 8 of those existing leases are out to bid for renewal services now. Those sites are in Clinton County, Livingston, Crittenden, McLean, and Todd. 11 more are set to be released for bid later this quarter. That's in Christian County, Muhlenberg, Caldwell, Logan, Butler, Edmondson, Hart, Allen, Davies, Ohio, somewhere near you. A few of other noteworthy successes. So we've got a tower site called 0805, or Pine Ridge, in Wolfe County. And it's being replaced by a newly created $0 land lease. So before it was on a privately owned piece of property, the tower itself needed a structural investment, meaning it wasn't going to make it. It actually had a car drive through a guide wire at a meat packing plant. The tower's located behind a meat packing plant, but they'd hit the guide wire, and that tower was going to cost more to repair than it would be to build a new one. So we took that opportunity to move that off of that privately owned property and onto property owned by the United States Forestry Service in Daniel Boone National Forest, and they allowed us to do that for $0 long-term land lease. So that's a major success. in being responsible with the Commonwealth's awards. In addition to that, 3 other $0 interagency leases have been executed with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, allowing our program to utilize properties in Campbell, Owsley, and Robertson County. And there are more to come from that transportation front. That partnership has been very fruitful. We already built a site in Webster County on their property the same way. With your all's continued support, the remaining leases will be bid out and will be executing long-term lease renewals within the next year, ensuring that the Commonwealth's investments in those physical tower assets and programs like SERVs and DMARCs and others are protected for years to come.
Thank you. Can you remind us how many leases are still there that you have to negotiate?
Counting the ones that are done, I believe we're somewhere in the 97 range. There are 97 more that have to be executed. Now, that number of leases may sound a little bit scary. I will add this as a comment. Some of these tower site properties, there may be multiple leases involved in a single property, meaning you may have a lease for access going into the road so that you can get to that piece of land. There may be a lease associated with that piece of land from a different landowner. One of the guide wire anchors, if you've seen those large wires that go from the top of the tower at an angle down to the ground to help physically support it, one of those anchors may be located on a different property because those properties have been split and divided and changed since we first built those sites and acquired those properties in the 70s. So some of the 90 are more like 66 tower sites, right, as 90-some-odd leases for existing sites.
And do you all anticipate that all the leases will be obtained as originally planned?
I am incredibly optimistic. The new process seems to be working incredibly well. There are things in that process that are out of our control, but those things... So it's a success, but it's also it's a success in that it's a testimonial to the process and how well the process is working. So there was a site that we were in the process of renewing, and I don't want to mention the name of the particular site or the company that owns it because it's owned by a corporation. But during that process, one of the things that we do is we do title searches to ensure that we're dealing with the right people, that our lease is valid, and that we're ensuring we're protected. Surveys as well. But an issue came up with title work, and it was something simple. The name of the corporation that owned the property had changed. They had changed names since they entered into that lease, but they hadn't updated that on their own title and deed. So in order for us to sign a new lease with them, they're going to have to go through a quiet title process where that they correct their title. So that's going to take quite a bit longer, that quiet title process. I'm not a real estate mogul or expert by any means, but I understand that takes some time, and when we can't renew that lease with them until that process is complete. But it is a good testament to we found that on the front side, and it's good that we found that because that'll protect our investment moving forward.
Thank you. Representative Sharp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, this has been a hot button issue for me.
Yes, sir.
And I've got my law enforcement community out in the 100th District is very concerned because there are communication issues out there. And we're talking about officer safety. So this is why it's paramount for me. Have you been able to establish a completion date yet? Because last time we spoke, you weren't able to do that.
So a great deal of that is about building those new tower sites. I do think that I see light at the end of the tunnel that I don't believe is a train. I see light at the end of the tunnel in that our process for obtaining those new tower sites that are required to provide that adequate coverage in the new radio system, in the SERVs network, is much quicker. We're making a lot of progress. I recognize that Boyd County has dealt with some woes. Since we last talked, we actually went to Boyd County. A couple of our technical staff, me included, went down and we looked at their existing communications equipment that Boyd County utilizes. We found some things that could be corrected to help make their systems last longer and provide better adequate coverage there in the city of Ashland. and made recommendations to them that hopefully they will take and get that repaired. We also surplus some of our old radio equipment. While it's not compatible with what we're building on our new system, it is compatible with what Boyd County is using and what some local agencies are using, and we're surplusing that equipment as requested to those local agencies to give them, although it's an old radio, so it was somewhere along the lines of 25 handheld portable radios, I believe. While it was old equipment, that equipment also went through my radio shop, and my guys will tune and align and get the most out of that. That's the reason that we've been able to make our equipment that we purchased since 2000 last until 2025, right? It's that maintenance and tuning and alignment that a lot of counties don't have the luxury of having a technical staff to do that for them and get the most out of their equipment. So
Yeah.
we've done some things for your area. I hope you know that. I hope
Yeah,
they relay
I have
that.
been briefed on that. I am aware of that, and I'm very thankful of that. I still haven't heard a completion date, though.
On the radio system, I would not be able to provide that date.
Can we ballpark it and say in 18 months and 24 months and 36 months?
I think a great deal of that is going to go down, come back to what are we looking at when it comes to building these tower sites and how long does it take us to build them? I think we've got the acquisition of the properties down and refined to a much better process. Now it's about, can we expedite that construction? And in my talks with DECA within finance facilities, we believe there are some methods that we can use and explore to do just that. And we're very hopeful. The next time that you're in town for a session, I hope to be able to give you better timelines that involve estimates on that construction process to show you just how much we've trimmed that process down.
Okay, are we still going in phase 1, 2, and 3 through this?
So it's very possible, and you may be excited to know this, we recently just procured the equipment for a portion of phase 3. And for us, that involves what we consider our post 8, our post 14, and our post 11 regions. Boyd County, Lawrence County, your specific area is in that post 14 region. And we do believe that we'll be able to expedite service to post 14 and not just build west to east, but also east back to west congruently or at the same time. And it would benefit you all. It'll benefit Eastern Kentucky greatly to go ahead and have both of those things going at the same time. And you will see an increase in when that radio system is available to the public safety agencies within your area, sir.
Well, I look forward to it.
Me too, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If there are no other questions, I thank you all for your time today. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you all.
All right, if we will now have those from the Kentucky Court of Justice who are going to update us today make their way to the table. All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
If you all could introduce yourself, make sure the green light is on.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zach Ramsey. I'm the Director of the Administrative Office of the Courts. I'm relatively new, just started